Have you ever driven down a quiet road late at night and felt like someone was watching you? In Quezon City, there is a street that has terrified drivers for generations. A lonely woman, dressed in white, appears without warning, asking for a ride. Those who stop often report the same chilling experience. She vanishes, leaving behind only fear and unanswered questions. Tonight, we uncover the terrifying legend of the White Lady of Balete Drive, one of the Philippines' most famous and enduring ghost stories. In the heart of Quezon City lies Balete Drive, a road that has become one of the most infamous locations in Philippine folklore. By daylight, it looks relatively ordinary. Cars move through its streets, residents go about their daily routines, and life seems no different from any other neighborhood in the city. Yet as evening approaches and darkness begins to settle over the area, the atmosphere changes in a way that many people find difficult to explain. The shadows grow longer, the surroundings become quieter, and an unsettling feeling seems to linger in the air. For generations, locals have shared stories of strange occurrences along this road. Some drivers claim they suddenly felt a chilling coldness inside their vehicles, despite warm weather. Others report seeing mysterious figures standing motionless near the roadside before vanishing without a trace. Many describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, even when no one appears to be around. These experiences have fueled countless rumors and ghost stories over the decades. Among all the tales connected to Balete Drive, one legend continues to dominate them all: the story of a mysterious woman dressed in white who appears to travelers late at night. Her ghostly image has become a symbol of fear, transforming Balete Drive from an ordinary street into one of the most haunted and talked about locations in the Philippines. For many, the road is more than just a place on a map. It is a gateway to one of the country's most enduring supernatural mysteries. Part of what makes Balete Drive so unsettling is its connection to the balete tree itself. In Philippine folklore, balete trees have long been associated with supernatural beings and wandering spirits. Their twisted trunks and hanging roots create eerie shapes that seem almost human in the darkness. Older generations believed these ancient trees served as homes for unseen entities that existed alongside the living. Many residents recalled how the massive Balete trees once formed a dark canopy over the road, blocking moonlight and casting strange shadows onto the pavement. At night, the trees appeared to move and breathe with the wind. Whether because of folklore or imagination, the atmosphere they created was undeniably unsettling. It was under these very trees that reports of the White Lady began to spread, linking the road forever to one of the nation's most terrifying ghost stories. The legend of the White Lady began gaining attention during the 1950s, when stories from taxi drivers started circulating throughout Manila. Drivers working late-night shifts claimed they had encountered a mysterious woman standing beside Balete Drive. She would appear alone, often dressed in a flowing white gown, silently waiting as though expecting someone. At first, many dismissed the stories as imagination or exaggeration. However, what made the accounts so disturbing was how similar they were, despite coming from different people. Drivers, who had never met one another, described the same woman, the same location, and the same terrifying ending. Word spread quickly, and before long, Balete Drive became famous throughout the city. The tale transformed from a simple ghost story into a cultural phenomenon, capturing the fears and imagination of an entire generation. One of the most widely accepted explanations for the White Lady's existence is the story of a young woman who died in a tragic accident. According to this version, she was returning home late one evening after attending a gathering with friends. Somewhere along Balete Drive, disaster struck. Some say she was hit by a speeding vehicle, whose driver fled the scene without offering help. Others claim she was left dying on the roadside, alone and forgotten. Her family searched desperately, unaware of what had happened. By the time her body was discovered, it was too late. The injustice of her death supposedly prevented her spirit from finding peace. As a result, she continues wandering the road where her life ended, forever searching for help that never came. This tragic tale remains one of the most common explanations behind the haunting. Another version of the legend traces the White Lady's origins back to the dark years of World War II. During the Japanese occupation, Many terrible crimes were committed throughout the Philippines. According to local stories, a young woman became the victim of violence near the area now known as Balete Drive. Some versions claim she was abducted, while others suggest she was murdered after resisting her attackers. Her death was sudden, brutal, and unjust. The trauma of those final moments supposedly trapped her spirit between worlds. Supporters of this theory believe her ghost appears mainly to men because she seeks recognition, justice, or perhaps revenge. While historical evidence linking a specific victim to the legend remains unclear, the story reflects the collective memories of suffering and loss experienced during wartime, adding another layer of mystery to the haunting. A more romantic yet equally tragic explanation involves a forbidden relationship. In this version, the White Lady was the daughter of a wealthy family who fell deeply in love with a man her parents considered beneath her social status. Their relationship was forbidden, but the couple continued meeting secretly. Balete Drive became one of their favorite places because it offered privacy away from disapproving eyes. Eventually, their secret was discovered. Some say the young woman was murdered by relatives determined to protect the family's reputation. Others claim she died from heartbreak after being separated from the man she loved. Regardless of the details, the ending is always tragic. Unable to move on, her spirit remains tied to the road where she once met her beloved. The legend continues as a haunting reminder of love destroyed by cruelty and social prejudice. Imagine Balete Drive on a stormy night in the 1970s. Rain falls steadily from the sky, and the streets are nearly empty. A veteran taxi driver named Carlos is finishing his shift after a long day of work. Exhausted and eager to return home, he drives slowly through the darkness. The windshield wipers move back and forth, creating a hypnotic rhythm. Suddenly, a figure appears in the glow of his headlights. Standing alone beside the road is a woman, dressed entirely in white. Her long black hair hangs over part of her face, and her clothing is soaked by the rain. She raises her hand, asking for a ride. Feeling sympathy for her situation, Carlos pulls over. What follows becomes one of the most terrifying encounters ever associated with the White Lady of Balete Drive. The woman quietly opens the rear door and enters the taxi. Carlos asks where she wishes to go. Her response is barely louder than a whisper, yet he understands the destination. As he begins driving, an uncomfortable silence fills the vehicle. The temperature inside seems to drop noticeably. Carlos glances into the rearview mirror and notices the woman sitting perfectly still. She does not fidget, cough, or even appear to breathe. Her pale face remains partially hidden behind strands of wet hair. Minutes pass, and the tension grows stronger. Every instinct tells him something is wrong, yet he continues driving. The city streets outside seem strangely deserted. The woman never speaks again. The only sounds are the rain hitting the roof and the engine humming through the darkness. Carlos can feel fear slowly creeping into his mind. Eventually, Carlos reaches the destination she provided. He parks the taxi and informs her that they have arrived. There is no response. Thinking she may not have heard him, he repeats himself. Again, silence. Curious and concerned, he turns around to check on his passenger. The back seat is empty. Shocked, he stares in disbelief. There is no way she could have left without opening the door. His heart begins pounding. Then, almost instinctively, he looks into the rearview mirror. What he sees freezes him with terror. The woman's face is reflected there, but it is no longer beautiful or peaceful. Her features are bruised and bloodied. Her eyes appear hollow and filled with sadness. For a brief moment, she whispers something unintelligible. Then the reflection disappears completely, leaving Carlos alone in the darkness. Carlos panics. He throws open the taxi door and stumbles onto the street. Rain pours down around him as he desperately tries to understand what has happened. Every shadow now seems threatening. Every distant sound feels unnatural. Witnesses later claim that his taxi was found abandoned not long afterward. According to local stories, Carlos never fully recovered from the experience. Friends reported that he refused to drive at night ever again. Whether the details are entirely true or embellished over time, the story became one of the most famous versions of the White Lady encounter. It spread rapidly among taxi drivers and residents throughout Manila. Soon, Countless others began sharing similar experiences. The legend grew stronger with each retelling, reinforcing the belief that something truly supernatural haunted Balete Drive after midnight. Over the years, numerous people have reported experiences that closely resemble Carlos's story. Some drivers claim they picked up a woman who vanished before reaching her destination. Others describe seeing her standing motionless beneath trees or staring from behind walls. Several witnesses reported catching sight of a female figure in their rearview mirrors, even though no one was sitting inside the vehicle. One particularly disturbing account involved a driver who received an address from the mysterious passenger, only to discover that the location did not exist. Another witness claimed the woman smiled at him before her face suddenly transformed into a decayed, corpse-like appearance. While skeptics argue that these stories are products of fear and imagination, believers see them as proof that the White Lady continues to roam the road in search of something she lost long ago. Many urban legends fade with time, but the White Lady of Balete Drive remains remarkably popular. Part of the reason is that the story taps into universal fears. Almost everyone has experienced the discomfort of driving alone at night or walking through a dark, unfamiliar area. The legend transforms those ordinary anxieties into something tangible and terrifying. It also draws strength from cultural beliefs about spirits and unfinished business. In many traditions, souls who suffer violent or unjust deaths cannot rest peacefully. Whether viewed as a ghost, a warning, or a symbol of tragedy, the White Lady represents those lingering fears. Each generation hears the story from the one before it, ensuring that the legend remains alive. As long as people continue sharing their experiences, the haunting will endure in the public imagination. Today, Balete Drive is far more developed than it was decades ago. Traffic moves regularly through the area, and many of the old landmarks have changed. Yet the road's reputation remains intact. Paranormal enthusiasts frequently visit hoping to witness something unusual. Some bring cameras, audio recorders, and other equipment in search of evidence. Online forums continue to collect reports from people who claim to have seen unexplained figures or experienced strange sensations while passing through. Most visitors leave without encountering anything supernatural. However, a small number insist that the atmosphere remains unsettling, especially during quiet hours of the night. Whether these experiences are psychological or paranormal depends on who you ask. What cannot be denied is that Balete Drive has become an enduring part of Philippine cultural history and folklore. The White Lady has earned the title of the Philippines' most famous ghostly hitchhiker, a legend that has endured for generations and continues to fascinate people to this day. Decades have passed since the first reported sightings along Balete Drive, yet the story refuses to fade into history. While many ghost stories eventually disappear or lose their impact, the White Lady remains deeply rooted in Philippine folklore. Perhaps that is because she represents something far greater than a simple supernatural tale. She embodies mystery, tragedy, fear, and the unanswered questions that linger whenever a life ends suddenly or unjustly. People continue to debate her true identity. Was she the victim of a terrible crime whose spirit still searches for justice? Was she a young woman whose life was cut short before she could fulfill her dreams? Or is she simply an urban legend, a story shaped and strengthened by decades of retelling, coincidence, and imagination? No one can say with certainty. What remains undeniable, however, is the power of her image. A lonely woman dressed in white, standing silently beside a dark and deserted road, has become one of the most recognizable symbols of Philippine horror. And somewhere, on a quiet night beneath the shadows of Balete Drive, many believe she is still waiting for the next unsuspecting driver to stop and offer her a ride. What do you think? Urban legend, ghost, or something far more sinister? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more terrifying tales from the Philippines and around the world. And remember, if you're ever driving alone late at night and notice a passenger in your rearview mirror, make sure they're really sitting in the back seat. Until next time, this is Taka Tales. Stay safe and sweet dreams.